This first document is going to be a place for us to record our formulas. On this document, you can see 5 basic shapes that we need to be able to determine the perimeter and the area of. So we have triangles, both isosceles triangles and right triangles, a parallelogram, a trapezoid, and a square. So let's start with the triangle. So if we look at the triangle itself, there's 2 dimensions we need to know. We need to know the size of the base, which is this right here, and then we also need to know the vertical height or perpendicular height. So I can count these off. For my base, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can mark that on my triangle. For the height, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I can mark that on my triangle. So I have a base of 5 and a height of 6. If we come to our table down here, we've already said that our shape is a triangle. We have a formula that says A is equal to 1/2 base times height. And I can substitute in. So A is equal to 1/2. We had a base of 5 and a height of 6. We plug that into our calculator and we get an area of 15 units squared. So that's the area of our triangle. Then we look at the next shape, and again we want to know how long is this base, and then how high is the vertical side. I can count my base. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice that we're counting segments and not whole squares. I can count my height. 1, 2, 3. Then we can come back to our chart. Again, we have another triangle. Same formula. A is equal to 1/2 base times height. I just have new values. This time it's A equals 1/2. We had a base of 4 and a height of 3. We plug that into our calculator and we get an area of 6 units squared. Our third shape is what we call a parallelogram. We want the same 2 dimensions. We have a base, and then we want a vertical height. We just have to be careful with making sure we identify the vertical height. So I can count off my base. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I get a base of 9. And then I count out my vertical height. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have a height of 4. If we come back to our chart, shape X is a parallelogram. Now our formula for a parallelogram is just like that of a rectangle or a square. It's just going to be area is equal to base times height. So I plug in. A is equal to, we said our base was 9. We said our height was 4. That gives us an area of 36 units squared. Make sure you are including your units on all of those answers. Shape Y is what we call a trapezoid. Now this time, instead of having one base, you're going to have 2 bases. And the way that I know which ones are the base, it will be the 2 parallel sides. And then again, we want the vertical height. So I'm going to count out my 2 bases. 1, 2, 3. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've got 2 bases. One that's 3, one that's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and a height of 4. If we go back to our table, this is a trapezoid. Formula changes a little here. We've got A is equal to 1/2. This time, because we have two bases, base 1 plus base 2 times the height. So I'm going to substitute in. My two bases were 3 and 5. And then that vertical height we calculated or determined to be 4. If we plug that, so when you plug this into your calculator, make sure you include all of those parentheses. So A is going to be equal to 16 units squared. If we go back, our last shape is a square. Now, we're going to skip, we're not going to include the square in our table because there's no way for us to count this diagonal segment. Notice that everything we counted was either perpendicular to the base, so we had vertical lines and we had horizontal lines. We cannot count diagonal lines, so we're not going to fill in the bottom box. We're just going to skip that last shape. We'll practice some more with those later.